This video is sponsored by Dev Mountain. If you're interested in learning web development, iOS, or UX design, Dev Mountain is a 12-week design and development bootcamp intended to get you a full-time position in the industry. To learn more, visit devmountain.com or click the link in the description below. What's going on, guys? In this video, we're going to be building a vanilla JavaScript text-to-speech application, and we're not going to use any third-party libraries or anything like that. What we're going to use is the Web Speech API, which is actually a browser-based API. I meant to have it up here. Let's see, Web Speech API. So this is the MDN site for it, and it says experimental technology, but it's pretty compatible. If you look here, we're actually using the synthesis part of it, which is available in Chrome, Edge, Firefox, not Internet Explorer, which is no surprise. Opera has a question mark, and then Safari, I actually just tested it in Safari. So I've tested it on Mozilla, Safari, and Chrome, and it works flawlessly on all of them. So that's what we'll be building, and basically we can put whatever we want in here for it to say. We can change the rate, which is the speed of the speak, and then the pitch as well. Okay, and then these voices we can fetch through the API, and there's actually like different languages, there's different accents and stuff like that. What's weird is I was developing this on my Windows machine back there, and the voices were different. They had different selections here, so I don't know if I had a different version of Chrome or what, but I was using a Chrome browser, so you might see different voices, but you know, that's fine. All right, so let's go ahead and give it a shot. If we click the submit button.
I hope you like this JavaScript tutorial.
So notice that we have a little background there. What I did is I took a GIF image that I found on the internet, just like a waveform or whatever, and while it's speaking, in the JavaScript, we're going to set the background to show that image, and once it's done speaking, because it fires off events, we're going to take it away, so it actually looks like it's kind of talking to you.
I hope you like this JavaScript tutorial.
Which is pretty cool. So we can change the rate. It's increments of 0.1, so if we go like way up here,
I hope you like this JavaScript tutorial.
It goes really fast. If we change the pitch, let's go up here.
I hope you like this JavaScript tutorial.
If we go really slow.
I hope you like this JavaScript tutorial.
Or not slow, but low pitch. And then if we change a voice, let's go to like Anna.
I hope you like this JavaScript tutorial.
So there's like different accents. Some of them are in different languages. Like, let's see. Let's go down here. This is like Japanese. So it's kind of like a translation app as well. So it's pretty cool. At least I think it's pretty cool. Hopefully you guys enjoy it. It's actually not a lot of code, so it's not going to be too difficult. I'm gonna basically explain every line. So if you're new to JavaScript, don't worry about it. You should be able to follow along fine. And let's get started. All right, so what I have here is VS Code on the right and my browser on the left. The interface is very responsive because we're using Bootstrap, so we can have it this small and it'll look just fine. All right, so let's take a look at our folder structure. And the files are all empty, but I did create the structure. So I have a folder called type and speak, or type and speak, and then inside there I have a dist folder. Now you guys don't have to create this dist folder. I'm doing it because I plan on deploying this to GitHub Pages, and I'll be using the GH Pages NPM package, and you need to have everything that you want to deploy as the site inside of a folder. So that's why I have it, but you don't have to do that. Then I have an index.html file, which is empty, a JavaScript folder with a main.js file, which is empty, and those are really the only two files we'll be using. And then we just have a couple images. So we have an img folder with speech.png, which is the logo, and then wave.gif, which is the animated image for the background. And you can get these in the GitHub repository. All right, so we'll start off with our interface. Now I am going to type it out because it's pretty simple. It's not going to take too long. We're using Bootstrap. I'm not going to explain every Bootstrap class. I do have a Bootstrap course on Udemy if you're interested. So let's go ahead and just do exclamation tab. We'll use Emmet to generate just a boilerplate here. I'm going to go ahead and close up the sidebar. And let's see, we'll change the title here to type. We'll do type and speak. And then we're going to need to include Bootstrap. So let's head over to getbootstrap.com. We'll say get started, and we want to grab the link right here. Paste that in, and then we'll grab the 3 JavaScript dependencies here, because I think you need them for the slider. I'm not positive on that, but I think you do. So we'll paste those in, and of course we want to put a link to our let's say script source. We want to put a script that points to JS main.js, which is our custom JavaScript file. All right, we'll save that. I am using the Prettier extension for VS Code, so it does clean up my code. If I go ahead and I move this over and save, it's going to format it for me. I'm also using Live Server, so I can go open with Live Server, and it'll open the application in the browser. And it's auto refresh. I would highly recommend Live Server if you're using VS Code. All right, so let's go ahead and start on our interface. So in the body, first thing we're going to do is actually I want to add a class, a couple classes to the body for now. So we're going to do bg-dark, and let's do text-white. Okay, just to change the background. And then we want a container, and I'm actually going to add a class of text center because I want everything centered here. And in the container, we're actually going to put the image, which is the logo. So that's in img/speech.png. And let's see, we'll save that, and there it is. Now under that, we're going to have a row class, because what we're doing here is we're going to create a 6-column div, and I want that 6-column div to be in the middle. That way it gives us a really narrow interface. So let's do call-md-6, and we want it in the middle, so we'll do mx auto. Okay, so that's margin auto on the left and right, so it pushes it into the middle. And then in here we're going to have our form. Okay, we don't need an action. So our form, let's do a form group. So inside this form group we'll have our text area, and we're going to give this an ID of text-input so we can grab onto it in the JavaScript, and then some Bootstrap classes like form control. And let's also do a class of form control-lg, which will make it large. Okay, let's save that. Okay, that's too big. I'm going to get rid of the calls and the rows attributes. Okay, now this is too close, so for the image, I'm going to just add a Bootstrap class of MB, so margin bottom -5, and save, and that'll push that down. All right, and this is why I love Bootstrap. I can't stand when people bash Bootstrap. Yeah, if you're building a production app that needs a custom design or whatever, custom layout, that's fine. But when you're you're prototyping applications and you just need to build something that's functional and make it look decent, Bootstrap and other frameworks are incredible for that. You know, just to move things down, not have to go into CSS and add your own margins and stuff like that. So it's very practical, and I can't stand when people bash it, as well as other practical technologies. But that's another video. So let's go ahead and add another form group. So we'll say form group, and this is going to be the rate slider. Actually, one thing I want to do with this text area is add a placeholder. And we'll just say type anything. Of course, you could put whatever you want. You don't have to do exactly what I do. And then in here, we're going to have a label first of all. For attribute, we'll say rate. So rate. Then we'll put the input, and this is going to be an input with the type of range. Okay, we don't need a name. We're not using any server-side stuff. We don't need name. ID is going to be rate, so we can use it in the JavaScript. Let's give it, let's see, a class of custom-range, which will give it that little blue circle, make it look a little better. Then we want to do a couple different attributes that are for range inputs. So we want to do min. So the min for this is going to be 0.5, and then the max is going to be 2. Okay, and then the value, which is like the default, it's going to be set to 1, and then the step, which is like each time you move it, how much does it move? It's going to be 0.1. Okay, let's save that, and there it is. Now, as it is, you can't see like what the rate is. I mean, you can see the place where it is here, but I wanted to show over here what the rate actually is. So under the label, I'm going to put a div with the ID of rate dash value. Okay, so the rate value, and well, it's going to be 1 by default because you can see I set value to 1. But in the JavaScript, we'll make it so that this will basically echo out whatever we set it to. Okay, and let's give this a couple Bootstrap classes. So we want badge, and let's do badge primary to make it that blue color. All right, and then one more class is I want to do float right, just to quickly float it to the right. So yeah, I mean, I don't understand why people bash UI frameworks. So the next one is going to be the pitch, which is going to be very similar. So I'm going to copy this whole form group right here and paste that in, and we'll change this to pitch. We'll change the label text to pitch, and this and the ID both to pitch. And I did a Control D. If you select something and you want the next value that matches it, you just do a Control D, and then you can change it to whatever you want. All right, so let's see. The 1 is going to stay. Value 1 is going to stay. Only thing we're going to change here is the minimum. I want to be 0. Okay, minimum 0, max 2. So let's save that. And there we go. So there we have the rate and the pitch. So next thing we want is the select list of languages. So let's do a form group. So form dash group. Now we're not going to manually put in all these voices. I'm sorry, I said languages, I meant voices. We're not going to manually put these voices in. We can actually fetch them using the API, and then we're going to insert them using JavaScript. But we do need at least the element. So I'm going to do a select, and we're going to call this voice dash select, ID voice select. We don't need a name. We do, however, want some classes to make this look good. So let's say class form control, and let's do form control large as well. All right, and that should be all we need for this select. And then finally, we just want a button. So let's say button. Actually, let's give this some classes. We want to do btn. We want to do btn-light. And let's do btn-lg, make it large, and then btn block, which will make it extend all the way across. I know I said I wasn't going to explain the Bootstrap classes, but whatever. All right, so we could do submit. That's what I did have. Let's do speak, or we'll say speak it and save. Okay, so notice the select list is blank. That's fine. We're actually going to fill that using JavaScript. So that's it. That's it for the interface. We shouldn't have to do anything else in the HTML. So now we're going to move on to our main.js file. All right, so the way that we access it's actually the speech synthesis API is window. We don't have to use window, but I'm just going to put it anyway. And then speech synthesis. Okay, and what I'll do here is set a variable called synth equal to that, so that way we can use this variable. Let's actually put a comment here, and I'm going to say init speech synth API, and I'll probably comment this pretty well just so you guys know exactly what's going on. Now the next thing we want to do is grab all the DOM elements, so all the form values, the form itself, the button, all that stuff. And instead of typing it in, I'm going to paste it and just go over it because it's very repetitive. We're just grabbing elements. So we have text form, which is the form itself, and I used query selector. And query selector, if you guys don't know, it's pretty much like using jQuery. You can use any CSS selector. I just put form in since it's the only form on the page. Text input, we use the ID of text input. The rest are actually IDs. You could use get element by ID if you want here. But voice select is going to be the select list with the ID of voice select. The rate, we have the ID of rate. Okay, that's the slider itself. The rate value is this right here. And then we have the pitch and the pitch value. Okay, and then underneath that, what we're going to do is we're going to init the voices array. Oops, I spelled voices wrong. So we need to fetch the voices using the API, and I'm actually going to initialize just an empty array here called voices. Okay, and then we're going to create a function called get voices. I'm going to use an arrow function, but you guys can go ahead and do this if you want. If you're not comfortable with arrow functions, you can do that. But what I'll do is we'll say const get voices, and to turn it to an arrow function, we just put an equal sign here and an arrow here. Okay, because I don't know, I just want to keep it ES6. So in here, we're going to say voices. So we're going to take that voices variable above, and we're going to set it to synth, which reaches into the speech synthesis API, and it has a method called get voices, and we want to use that. All right, so I just want to show you guys something real quick that confused me at first. So if I say console log voices, and then we call the get voices function to run this, and let's save that, and then let's open up our Chrome tools here. Oops, I spelled that wrong. So it gives us an empty array, which may be a little unexpected. You would figure this would give us the voices, but this is actually called asynchronously. So we have to wait for an event called onVoicesChanged. Okay, and the way that how I figured this out was searching for what did I say? Web speech API get voices empty. So right here, I know this is really small, but let's see. So basically, he's complaining that it's empty, and then let's see. Is this the answer that? Yeah, so right here, according to the Web Speech API, the voice list loaded asynchronous to the page. An onVoicesChanged event is fired when they are loaded. Okay, so then he says the trick is to set your voice from the callback for that event listener. Okay, so basically we want to set this onVoicesChanged to the function that we create. So to fix this, what we can do is go right under get voices. And we're going to add more to get voices. I'm just trying to show you how to actually obtain these voices. We're going to say if synth, so if synth.onVoicesChanged is not equal to undefined. Okay, so if it's not equal to undefined, then we want to say synth.onVoicesChanged, and then set that to our function of get voices. Actually, we don't want our parentheses there. So let's save that, and now you can see that we're getting all these voices. Okay. Now the reason I'm leaving this here is because I believe that in Firefox this event isn't supported. So we do want to call it here and then also do this. All right, just to get that out of the way. I know I just wanted to kind of explain how that worked. All right, so now that we have this variable voices, we want to put them into that select list. So I'm going to loop through these. So let's say loop through voices, and we want to create an option for each one. Okay, so our select list is blank right now. We want an option for each voice. So we could loop through this a few different ways. Like I said, I'm going to keep this a little more modern. I'm not going to use like a for loop or anything. I'm going to use a for each. So I'm going to say voices dot for each, and for each one we'll call it a voice, and we'll use an arrow here. Okay, so this is looping through all the voices, and we want to create an option element. okay, because we can create DOM elements right from the JavaScript. So the way that we're going to do that is create a variable, we'll call it option, and we'll set that equal to document.createElement. And if you took my JavaScript, modern JavaScript course, we did this kind of stuff quite a bit, this DOM manipulation and stuff. So we want to create an element, and it's going to be an option element. All right, so we have our element. Now we want to fill the option with the voice and language. If you remember the select list, it had the voice, like the person's name, and then the language. So to do that, we can take our option and we can say text content. Okay, so we'll set text content to voice. We have access to this voice object now, which has a value of name. And then let's add to that in parentheses, we'll do, let's say voice, voice dot, it's lang, so voice dot lang. Okay, so that should work. Yeah, so text content, so we'll have the name, and then we'll have the language in parentheses. All right, under that, let's do, we have to set needed option attributes. Okay, so there actually needs to be some special data attributes for each option. There's going to be data name and data lang. So we can say option.set attribute, and we're going to set data dash name. Actually, let's do lang first. So set data lang, and we want to set that to that voices lang, like that. All right, and then we'll copy this down, and let's do the same with the name. So set data name to voice.name. Okay, and then the last thing we want to do is just append the options to the select. So we'll say voice select. So that's the select list. We define that up here. So right here, voice select, and we want to append child. Remember, we're still within the loop, so we're just taking each iteration and we're going to append the option. Okay, and I think that should do it. Let's save this, and there we go. If we look at our select list, now it's full. Okay, it's full of all those voices, which are all coming from synth.getVoices. So now that we've done that, let's start to work on the actual speech. So I'm going to go down here and let's put a comment. We'll say speak. I'm just going to call this function speak. Again, I'm going to use an arrow. So I'll say speak. All right. Now I'm not going to do the background, the wave, the GIF image. I'm not going to do that until the very end. So we're going to skip that for now. First thing I want to do is, and this is going to run when we click speak or speak it, when we click the button. It's also going to run as soon as we choose a person or a voice, because I want it to run again with that voice. So we need to check to make sure that it's not speaking when we click it. Okay, if we click it, we just want to kind of return out, and I'll just console log that it's already speaking. So to do that, we're going to just do, actually let's put a comment here, and we'll say check if speaking. And we can do that by just saying if synth dot speaking, okay, that means it's actually speaking. Then let's do a console dot, we'll do a console dot error. Oops, and we'll say already cannot spell or type. I guess it's not really spelling, it's typing. Already speaking, and then let's just return. Okay, so that will happen if it's actually in the process of speaking and we click the button. All right, so let's do a check here to see if the value is not, if this actually has something in it. We want to make sure it's not an empty string. So let's do an if, and we'll take the text input, right? That's what I called it. And since it's an input, we want to take the value. Okay, if we don't save dot value, we're just grabbing this in the element itself, not what we type in it. So we want to take what we type in it, and we want to make sure that it's not equal to nothing. Okay, so if it actually has something in it, then we want to continue. Now, to actually make this work, let's say get speak text, and I'm going to create a variable called speak text. And what we want to set this to is new speech. Where is it? It's this right here. So there's a lot of different parts of this API. We want speech synthesis, synthesis utterance. Okay, that's what we want to grab here. And then we want to pass in the whatever we want it to say, which is going to be the text input dot value. Okay, so we're setting that to a variable called speak text, and then we have a bunch of methods and properties that are attached to this speak text object now. So let's go down here and let's say speak end. So we're going to take that speak text, and we can do an event called on end, and set that to, let's say, E. All right, so basically this is gonna run when it's done speaking. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is a console.log, and we'll say done speaking. All right. And this is also where we're going to set the background back after we put the image in, but we're going to do that later on. We don't have to worry about that just yet. Okay, there's also an event for an error. So let's say if there's a speak error, and we can say speak text dot on, let's see, on error. We'll use an arrow function here, and let's just console, we'll do a console dot error, and we'll just say something went wrong, like that. All right, let's put that on a different line. So speak end, speak error. So now that we have that, let's go ahead and let's start to work with the voices, because it needs to know which voice to use to speak. Okay, so let's say selected voice. So I'm going to create a variable called selected voice, and we're going to set this to voice select, which is our select object, and then we're going to say dot selected selected options, and we want the 0 index, and then we want to get attribute, and we want the data name attribute. Okay, remember we set that above, so we'll say data dash name. All right, and we set that up here in the get voices right here. So we set the attribute, whoops, this one here, data name, and we set it to the name. So here we're going to take the selected voice, and all this is doing is grabbing the one we select. It's not actually selecting it from like the API or anything to use. It's just simply going to grab whichever one we click here. So what we need to do is loop through the voices and basically say if the current voice or the current iteration matches what is selected, then choose that voice. Okay, so let's say loop through voices, and to do that we can say voices. Okay, remember we have that, basically that global array of voices that we got from get voices, and we're going to do a for each to loop through it. And let's say voice. Okay, And we just need to do just a very simple if statement, and we're going to say if the current voice dot name is equal to the selected voice, okay, if that's equal, then we simply set the speak text dot voice to that voice. Okay, now it'll actually set the voice of speak text. You can think of speak text as like the person speaking. Okay, and then the last couple things we need to do is just set the rate and the pitch. So we're going to go outside of that loop there, and let's say set pitch and rate, and we can do that very easily. Say speak text dot rate, and we're going to set that to whatever the rate dot value. Okay, because remember rate, this rate right here, we set as a variable connected to the ID of rate, which is this, the slider. Okay, so whatever the value of this is going to go into speak text dot rate. We want to do the same thing with the pitch. So we can say pitch dot value, and then let's say speak text pitch, like that. Okay, and then the very last thing we want to do here is speak. Okay, we have everything set. Now we can simply say synth.speak, and we pass in our speak text. And that's it. All right, so we're almost done, guys. We just need to set our event listeners. Go ahead and just save that. And let's set, I'll just say event listeners. Okay, so the first event is going to be the actual form submission. So when we click this button, we want to basically just call this speak function that we created, okay, which just goes through all this, selects the voice, come down here, select the pitch, the rate, and then actually speaks. Okay, so let's do text, let's do text form submit. So we'll take the text form and we'll add an event listener. Okay, so this is going to take in the event we want, which is a submit, and then let's do just an arrow function with an event parameter. Since it's a form and it's a submit, we want to do an e.prevent default. Okay, we want to prevent it from actually submitting to a file. And then we just simply want to call speak. Okay. Underneath that, let's just take the text input and let's call blur. Oops, what the hell? Blur, like that. And that's it. So that should call the speak function. The next event we want is for the rate value change. So as I change this, this should reflect what the value is. So this is going to be pretty easy. So we'll say rate value change. So we want to take the rate, so that the rate variable is connected to this slider. That's what we set above in the DOM elements. And we're going to add an event listener to it. And the change event is what we want to listen for. So as soon as you move that slider, it calls the change event. And then I'm not even going to set curly braces here because I only need one line. What I'm going to do is take the rate value variable, which is this number here, that element, and I'm going to set the text content equal to whatever the rate.value is. Okay, so rate.value is just whatever this is equal to. If it's you know, whatever 1.5 or 2 or whatever it is, it should reflect here. Now we're going to do the same thing for the pitch, so it's going to be identical to this, except instead of rate, it's going to be pitch. Okay, so we want to change that. Let's just do a Control D twice, and then we'll just change that to pitch. Okay, so as soon as the pitch is changed, the pitch value, which is this, the content is going to get set to whatever the value is. And then the very last thing we want to do is for the voice select. As soon as I select a voice, I want it to speak again with that voice. I don't want to have to select the voice and then click speak again. So let's say voice select change. So voice select, and we want to add an event listener, and again we want to listen for a change, and we don't need curly braces here either because all we're doing is just calling speak. Okay, so we're just going to call speak again as soon as the voice is changed, and let's save. Alright, so now we can test everything out. We haven't done the background animation yet, but that's like I said at the end. Let's just test this out. So let's say, I hope this app works. Okay, you ready?
I hope this app works.
Yes. Okay, let's change the rate.
I hope this app works.
That works. And you can see this is now, as soon as I let go, when I move this, this changes, and that comes from this event right here. Okay, it's just changing it to whatever the value of this is. Same thing with the pitch. If I move that all the way up, it should be 2. And let's try it.
I hope this app works.
Okay, let's try a different voice. We'll choose Kermit.
I hope this app works.
Now notice as soon as I select a voice, it plays, it speaks, and that's because of this last event here. Okay?
I hope this app works.
Because it fires off a change event and then it calls the speak function, which we created above. All right, so everything seems to be working. Now we just need to add the bonus functionality of the background image. So for this, I'm going to actually get rid of, in our index.html, I'm going to get rid of the BG dark here because it doesn't match the color of the image. So if I get rid of that, it goes to white, which I don't want. So I'm going to just go up here into the head and just put a style tag. I'm not going to create a separate style sheet because all I'm doing is changing the color of the body. And I'm changing the color of the body to match the background of the image so that they're seamless. So we're going to just set the body, let's say body, and then the background I'm going to set to just 1, 4, 3 times like that. And save. Okay, there we go. And let's see, there's nothing else we have to do here, I believe. So let's go in our JavaScript. Okay. Now, as soon as the speak function fires off, that's when we want to show the image, right? So let's go to our speak function, and we're going to go right to the top of it, and let's say add background animation, I guess we'll call it. Okay, so we can do this by selecting the body. Actually, you know what I'll do is add the body as a variable, as a DOM element, instead of having to do document.querySelector down there. So let's say const body equals query selector, and we want to select the body itself. So that way down here we can just simply say body, and we want to do .style .background, and we're going to set that to a value of the background color and also the image. So we'll say URL, and then we want to go /image/ what is it? Wave? I think it's wave.gif. Why is this look? Wait a minute. Oh, this shouldn't have quotes here. All right. Now, I don't know if I mentioned this yet, but if you're not running this on a server, like you're not in a root directory of a server, the paths might not get found. Like if you just open index.html on your desktop, it might not work because it might not find this image, just to let you know. But you know, it's not a big deal. If you were to deploy it to a host, then it would work, but it might not work on your file system. So let's say body.style. We want to add a couple other things here, like background repeat. So background repeat, we want it to repeat just in the horizontal fashion. So we want to say repeat -x. If not, if you don't do this, you're going to see it's going to repeat this way as well, and you're going to see two of them, two waveforms. So we just want it to repeat this way. Okay, and then the final style we want to put here is going to be the background size. Okay, and we basically want it to cover everything, like the whole background. So we're going to set it to 100% and 100%. All right, so let's save that and let's try it out. Let's just say, hello, Brad.
Hello, Brad.
Okay, so that didn't work. Failed to, what? What's this? Responded with 404 not found. So is it not called that? Image. No, it is called that. What did I do wrong here? Oh, it's because it's in the dist folder, isn't it? I think that's why. There we go. Okay. All right. So a couple things that I actually just realized. If you're not in the absolute root, we could just take that // away. Another thing, you saw that when I hit this, even if there's nothing in here, this fires off. Okay. Third thing is it's staying there. Okay, and that's expected. We have to when we do something in any programming, when you do something, you have to make sure you take care of undoing it, basically. So let's move this. Let's actually move this into, or I should say, yeah, into here, because we don't want it to happen unless, you know, there's something actually in here. So let's try that.
Hello, Brad.
Okay, so that works, but notice it's still there. So we have to take care of that. And the way that we're going to do it is going down to the on end. Remember, this fires off as soon as it's done speaking. If I open my console, it says done speaking after it's done speaking. So let's then take the body and let's say body.style.background, and let's set it back to just the color. Okay, no image. All right, so let's go back and try it out. Let's say
Let's hope this works.
And there we go. As soon as it's done, okay, as soon as it's done, that background gets set to just the color and not the image.
Let's hope this works.
Awesome.
Let's hope this works.
Okay, and if you want to mess with the position, you could do background position if you want to move the line up or down or something like that.
Let's hope it works. Let's hope it works.
That's good. Another thing that's pretty cool is that it recognizes
Let's hope this works.
It recognizes punctuation, at least commas. Like if I do, let's say, how are you? I am good. Okay, without a comma.
How are you? I am good.
But if I put a comma in there,
how are you? I am good.
It does a little pause. So I think that's pretty cool. I don't think the question mark works, so let's see.
How are you?
Let's try it without it.
How are you?
No, it sounds the same to me. But it does recognize periods and commas, so that's pretty cool. But I think that's going to be it, guys. Hopefully you like this little project, and I will see you next time.